Hey everyone, welcome to Toasty Tutorials. Today I'm going to be doing a Hearthstone deck tutorial for the Handlock deck. So Handlock is definitely one of the original super strong decks of Hearthstone. It's been around, since the core set, and it's pretty much always been a contender. Kind of comes and goes as Big Game Hunter gets played. Of course, Big Game Hunter kills all your giants. At this point, it kills Dr. Boom, and yeah, it causes all kinds of problems for you. But anyway, so I'm going to get into the deck here. So I'm just going to go in, mana cost order. So first off, we have Mortal Coils, which is actually one of the flex slots of the deck. I've loved it so far, especially on ladder where there's always lots of aggro, like, Hunter and Zoo. Obviously, it's perfect for killing 2/1s on turn 1 or 2. And then it's also really good against control decks because pretty much all of them play Sludge Belcher at this point. And if you're something like a Twilight Drake, it's going to hit the Belcher for 4, and the Belcher will be, left over at 1 life. So you can kill that, and just kind of a good value play. One of the big new additions from Goblins vs. Gnomes is Dark Bomb here. And while this is possibly the most unexciting card on paper, it actually does a tremendous amount of work. It's perfect for killing, random like 2/3s early on, or 3/2s even, that get by your Mortal Coil. And it's also really good late game because, unlike earlier Handlocks, you don't play crazy stuff like Leroy. So the 2 Dark Bombs actually give you a surprising amount of reach late game. So a really, really great card. On paper, it's not spectacular, but definitely does a lot of work. Next up, we have Ancient Watcher. This is just, again, it's kind of a classic Handlock card. This is pretty much the only deck it's actually good in anymore. But yeah, basically with your Sun Fury Protectors, Diva Taunt, and Defender of Argus, as well as Shadow Flames and Ironbeak Owls in a pinch. There's lots of things you can do with the, a 2 mana 4/5. It's incredible. So really flexible card and deceptively powerful. You got your 2 Ironbeak Owls here. Again, they're just super extremely utility cards. Really, really good in the mirror match if you need to kill their Twilight Drakes, because of course the Owl plus a Mortal Coil will kill any size Drake. That's really convenient and nice. And of course, Owl just hits tons of other stuff. And it's just a really good utility card. Also, as a side note here, I have a gold and a non-gold one. It's actually really bad to do, so don't do what I do. If you're going to play a gold version of a card, make sure you have, well, if you're playing 2 of a card, make sure if you're playing gold, you have 2 golds. Or if you only have 1, then just play 2 non-golds. Don't do a split here because there's all kinds of weird situations that could happen that can give your opponent information for free if they're really paying attention. Alright, so after the Owl, we have Sun Fury Protector. This is definitely something you want 2 of. Again, it just has tremendous synergy with stuff like Ancient Watchers, and you have your Twilight Drakes, which could be like 4/9s. You have your Giants, which of course are 8/8s. So yeah, if they don't have something like a Big Game Hunter or just spot removal to kill the guys you're taunting up, then Sun Fury causes giant problems for a lot of decks. It's also the best card you can have once you land a Lord Draxus, because at that point in the game, you're going to be at 15. You're going to have, your 8 attacks with your 3 damage weapon that you get from Draxus. And you're going to be making 6/6 Infernals. So, if you're making 6/6 Infernal every turn, nothing in the game can beat that, aside from just bursting you down. So you just want to, stay alive. Alright, in this build of Handlock, I have 1 Big Game Hunter. Some have had 0, and some, in my opinion, Maniacs have gone up to having 2. Yeah, 1 feels just about right, especially with Handlock being pretty prevalent in addition to Control Warrior in the metagame right now. Here I have an Earthen Ring Farseer, which has pretty sweet gold art. This is definitely a flex slot. Some people are playing 2 Antique Healbot, which is certainly reasonable. I found I just kept getting clogged a little bit though when I had the 2 5-drops there, in addition to Loatheb and Sludge Belchers. So I chose this as something much better against like Zoo and Hunter again, which especially on ladder is always relevant. It's also nice on turn 5 if somehow you don't have a different 5-drop, you can always, life tap, see what you get, and then Earthen Ring if that's the best option at that point. Alright, next up we have the split here of the mass removal spells with 1 Hellfire and Shadow Flame. At this point it definitely seems to me like Shadow Flame is much, much better, because against control matchups, Hellfire just doesn't generally do much and you have to work really hard to actually make it get value. And versus aggro decks, it'll certainly get you 2 for 1, 3 for 1, 4 for 1, or even beyond that. But the problem is by the time you use it, you're usually down to about 10 to 15 life, and Hellfiring is kind of the last thing you want to do when you take 3 damage. especially in the Hunter matchup. Alright, so after that we have Defender of Argus. Again, it's kind of like a bigger Sun Fury Protector. Has lots of synergy with pretty much all your creatures. It's really, really good. But given it costs 4, we only have 1 because your curve, once you hit 4 and beyond, also gets kind of bloated, and you only have so many turns to play 4, 5, 6, and 7 mana stuff in addition to your existing giants and whatnot. Alright, after that we have Twilight Drake, which is definitely one of the big namesakes of the deck alongside the giants. Definitely, on turn 4 it can be like a 4/9 or 4/8. It's just an enormous problem for most decks. Also, having 4 powers is perfect because against a priest, they can't really do much to it. It certainly doesn't get big game hunted like your giants. It's just a very problematic creature. Pretty much one of the very few ways to trade favorably against it is by playing an Iron Beak Owl, and even then, they'd spend 2 mana for an Iron Beak, and then as best case scenarios, they have something like a Leper Gnome, which they paid 1 mana. But I mean, in that case, they still used like 1.5 cards, and they still spent 3 mana to kill your 4 mana play. So you're generally really happy about that still. And then if they don't immediately kill it, it's got 4 power, which is enough that it rumbles really well with pretty much any 4-drop or anything lower in cost than a 4-drop. So he just picks guys off if they just try and go to your face. Alright, so after that we have Antique Healbot, which in my opinion is probably the most important card out of Goblins and Gnomes. I think Dr. Boom gets a lot of press, but Antique Healbot is really what has swung a lot of matchups. So again, especially on ladder, like I said, I refer to the Zoo and Hunter matchups a lot. But yeah, stuff like this is really allows Handlock to shine against those decks where previously, once you got to like 5 to 10 life, you're generally pretty dead unless you have like 2 taunted giants out. But if that's not the case, you're kind of hosed. So now with Healbot, you can actually come back in some of those games, and you might go down to 1 or 2 after you gain the 8 health, but obviously you can still win that game rather than just being dead. So yeah, major addition. Like I said earlier, some people are on 2. I currently have 1, but I could definitely see going to 2 in the future. All right, next up we got Lotheb, the card that goes in every deck it seems like. He's pretty good. I'm actually not really in love with him, and I could definitely actually see swapping him out for something else, but what that something else would be, I'm not sure, aside from the Healbot. So the problem with the Healbot is that while 8 life's incredible, his body just sucks as a 3/3. Whereas, Lotheb's 5/5 body is just so good. Especially when we have up next here, Sludge Belcher, which, of course, Handlock plays 2, and most other control decks play 2. So having just that 5 power and be able to survive, 3 power from the Belcher is just critical. So, yeah, Lotheb sometimes randomly hosing people off of spell-based turns is really good. And then also just the way it matches up with other 5-drops such as Sludge Belcher or Azure Drake is just really, really strong. Also even against Twilight Drake because, Twilight Drake has to hit it twice, which means the Lotheb will always trade for it, although it takes, 2 attacks. Alright, and again, so Sludge Belcher, if you played against it, this is something that gums up the board perfectly. It's just a nightmare to get past and it's really annoying. Alright, after that we got Siphon Soul, which is definitely kind of the premier removal spell for Warlocks, I would say. Although at 6 mana it's very, very pricey. This spell is especially good, when you have a Jiraxis. That 3 life doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but when you're making Infernals and you play Siphon Soul, and then maybe if you're living a dream, do a Sun Fury Protector that turn as well, is just insane. The Siphon Soul definitely seems expensive at first, but you certainly want to. Alright, next up is Dr. Boom. Some other people kind of play Ragnaros in this slot, which I certainly, I guess, respect. But Dr. Boom just at 7 mana is just too much value right now. I could definitely see this card getting, nerfed in the future. But for now, I'm gonna let it rock and enjoy him because he's so strong. He's not even particularly well suited to this deck, but again, at 7 mana, like even if he gets big game hunted, you're still getting value. So he's really where you want to be right now in pretty much any mid-range or control deck. Alright, so here we have Lord Jiraxis. Some other builds play Alexstrasza, but I've liked Jiraxis so far. There actually are, with Handlock, kind of weird situations that can happen against, say, Control Warrior, where you're not actually able to finish games, like if you don't have, a Jiraxis. Because, say, your Giants get big game hunted or shield slammed, and somehow, they, Cruel Taskmaster and execute your Drakes, and then, suddenly you just don't have enough, the ability to deal 45, 50 damage to a Warrior who's gained, again, 15 or 20 armor throughout the course of the game. So I like Drax as just, your be-all, end-all finisher. He is certainly very hard to actually, get into play sometimes, because on the turn you play him, obviously you can't do anything else except, at best, play Mortal Coil. But yeah, if you can survive a turn with him out and you're not, just utterly dead, like he's going to slam the door shut on your opponents just pretty much within a turn, and, you're just going to run away with that game. Alright, and then finally we have the two giants. Of course, you play 2 each of them. But yeah, they're the whole reason you play the Handlock archetype. Because, of course, you want to go turn 4, play a Mountain Giant. That's the ideal, draw with Handlock. Or if you're playing aggressive decks, of course, Molten Giant plus a Taunter can be really, really difficult for them to beat as well. So yeah, basically the Giants and the Twilight Drake are the whole reason, your turns 2 and 3 generally life tapping and then putting out an unbeatable force of giant dudes. So like I said, yeah, it's Handlock. The deck's been around for quite a bit. A few slots have changed here and there, and a few are customizable. So yeah, give it a shot and see how it goes for you. I'm gonna go play some games.